Have you ever found yourself searching for that one secret, that single magic pill to achieve real, lasting change in your life?
Oh, yeah, we've all felt that pull, haven't we? That feeling of being just overwhelmed by information, wishing for a shortcut to something better.
Exactly. Well, that's precisely why you're here. Welcome to the deep dive.
This is your direct path to being genuinely well-informed.
We cut through the noise and really extract the most powerful nuggets of knowledge and insight from the material you share with us. And today, we're embarking on a really fascinating deep dive. It's into a system that promises not just success, but, well, massive, unstoppable success.
And it's not about those grand gestures or overnight miracles we often hear about.
No, it's something far more subtle and profoundly powerful, the compound effect.
Right, drawn from the incredible insights in Darren Hardy's book based on the material provided.
So the big question we're exploring today is this. What if true sustainable success isn't actually about those huge dramatic leaps we tend to celebrate?
What if it's really about the consistent power of tiny, deliberate steps taken over time?
Okay, so that's the core idea from Hardy's work then.
That's the essence of it. The compound effect is basically an operating system already running your life.
Whether you realize it or not, right? For
Right.
better or for worse.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that massive rewards are reaped from a series of small, smart choices.
But they have to be consistently applied over time.
That's the key. Understanding it means you can consciously start to harness its power.
So it almost sounds, well, deceptively simple, doesn't it?
It does.
If tiny changes are so powerful, why isn't everyone already, living their dream life with ease?
Yeah, that's the counterintuitive nature of it. The changes themselves are so subtle, so almost imperceptible in the moment.
So they don't give you that immediate feedback,
Exactly. There's little or no visible result right away, no instant gratification.
which leads people to just give up, I suppose.
That's what happens. The truly massive outcomes, they only become visible much, much later.
Creating that illusion of an overnight success.
Right. When it's actually been years of consistent, often invisible effort piling up.
The material uses a classic thought experiment to show this, the magic penny.
Ah, yes, the penny. Great illustration.
So if you had to choose $3 million cash right now, or a single penny that doubles in value every day for 31 days, which one do you take?
Well, most people instinctively lean towards the $3 million.
Because it's immediate, it's tangible, you can see it.
Exactly. The penny, well, it starts ridiculously small. I mean, after 20 days, it's barely over $5,000.
Feels insignificant, especially next to $3 million bucks.
Totally. And this is where our human psychology often clashes with the, simple math.
Right. While you might be enjoying your $3 million, thinking you made the smart choice.
That invisible magic of the penny starts to, well, compound. It's working behind the scenes.
And it's not until day 30, almost the very end, that the penny finally pulls ahead. Hits over $5.3 million.
And then boom, the very last day, day 31, that single penny has compounded to over $10.7 million.
Wow. More than 3 times the $3 million.
And the critical takeaway here isn't just the final number, impressive as it is.
It's understanding why consistency over time is so crucial.
Yes. The really significant payoff arrives right at the very end. The results are massive, but the changes were subtle, almost invisible, for nearly the entire journey.
Okay, so if the penny is maybe a little too abstract for some folks, the story of the 3 friends, Larry, Scott, and Brad, really brings this principle down to earth.
That's a fantastic example from the material, yeah.
What's the most profound lesson from their very different paths, maybe something people overlook?
I think the most profound lesson is that prolonged period of invisibility. Larry, he just keeps doing what he's always done, stagnant.
Okay, the baseline.
Right. Then Scott makes these small, seemingly minor positive changes, reading 10 pages of a good book daily.
Listening to 30 minutes of instructional audio.
Cutting just 125 calories, adding 2,000 steps a day. Tiny things.
And Brad. He goes the other way, but also with small things.
Exactly. Small negative choices. Buys a new big screen TV, starts trying rich food recipes, adds just 1 alcoholic drink per week. Again, seems minor.
And the key point is, for a long time, nothing seems to change.
That's it. For 18, even up to 25 months, the material says there were practically no visible differences among them. Their lives look almost identical from the outside.
And then, almost suddenly, everything shifts.
Dramatically. By month 31, Scott hadn't just lost 33 pounds.
Which is significant in itself.
Right, but crucially, his accumulated knowledge and energy, all that compounding input, earned him a promotion and significantly improved his marriage.
Wow. And Brad.
Well, by adding just those 125 calories a day, he'd gained 33.5 pounds.
Which means he weighed a staggering 67 pounds more than Scott.
Yep. And his small negative choices also spiraled. Unhappiness at work, a marriage on the rocks.
And Larry, the baseline guy.
He was exactly where he started, same place, but now more bitter, watching the others change.
It really underscores that the results of small, consistent actions aren't linear, are they?
Not at all. They're exponential, and they often seem to hit all at once after that long, quiet period.
So a seemingly insignificant choice, like Brad's extra drink or Scott's 10 pages, can create such a powerful ripple effect. How does that actually happen?
Well, think about Brad's situation. Those extra muffins, the rich foods, maybe they made him feel sluggish, a bit irritable.
Okay, makes sense.
That impacts his concentration at work, leads to maybe some negative feedback.
The knock-on effect.
Exactly. His reduced energy means he stops taking those walks with his wife. That, in turn, strains their relationship, maybe leads to emotional distance, self-doubt. It cascades.
And conversely for Scott.
His positive choices ripple outwards, too. Improved health means more energy. More energy means better focus at work, maybe more patience at home.
Leading to the promotion and the better marriage.
It all connects. Better job performance, a more passionate marriage. These outcomes aren't random. With enough time and consistency, they become, well, almost predictable, an inevitable consequence of those tiny compounding choices.
Okay, so if the results are so predictable, why do we, as individuals, resist this? Why do we struggle with these small, consistent steps?
Hardy points to what he calls the microwave mentality. Society has kind of conditioned us for instant gratification.
Fast food, overnight mail, quick fixes.
Exactly. We're sold this idea that we can get rich, fit, or younger overnight with little effort.
We hear about the one lottery winner.
Never the millions of losers who bought tickets.
Right.
So this makes us prone to giving up on that slow, steady progress.
Because the immediate, visible payoff just isn't there.
Even if the long-term payoff is virtually guaranteed if you stick with it.
It's such a stark contrast to, say, our grandparents' generation, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. They seem to inherently understand that true, lasting success requires consistent effort and good habits.
They just seem to live it.
They did. I mean, our grandparents often worked 6 days a week, sun up to sundown sometimes. They understood success is earned through hard work, discipline.
The material gives that restaurant example.
Yeah. The once popular place that failed in just 18 months. Why? Because it got comfortable, complacent.
The standard slipped bit by bit.
The impeccable service, the welcoming hostess, the amazing food, it all slowly declined, almost imperceptibly at first.
It's a powerful demonstration that nothing fails like success when complacency sets in.
Absolutely. That subtle decay of standards compounds just as powerfully but negatively as positive growth does.
That's a sobering thought. So for you listening right now, maybe take a second to reflect. What seemingly insignificant choices are you making daily?
Yeah, the ones that might be quietly compounding your life, either for better or for worse. It's not always obvious in the moment, is it?
Not at all. Okay, moving into our next segment. It feels vital to recognize that every single result in your life, good, bad, indifferent, it ultimately stems from a choice you made.
Conscious or unconscious, yep, it's
Yeah.
at the root of everything.
And the biggest challenge, the material suggests, isn't making intentionally bad choices.
No, it's what Hardy calls sleepwalking through them, making them unconsciously. Yeah.
That really hits home. We often brace ourselves for the big mistake, the elephant in the room.
Yeah, the massive, obvious screw-up.
But the material points out it's actually the insidious, small, daily choices, the mosquito bites, that truly derail us over time. Why are those subtle choices so much more dangerous?
Well, they're dangerous precisely because they're so easily dismissed. They seem harmless.
Like grabbing a soda and chips without thinking.
Exactly. You might only realize after they're gone that, oops, you just blew a day of healthy eating. Or maybe blurting out a small white lie thinking it's no big deal.
And because they're small, you don't consciously register them as a problem.
Right. These unmindful choices prevent you from consciously recognizing and then changing those ineffective behaviors.
Yeah.
They just keep compounding quietly in the background.
Okay, so to combat that sleepwalking, the material introduces this really profound concept. Owning 100% of your life.
Not 50-50 or 80-20.
No, 100%. Zero excuses. What does that truly mean in practical terms? How do we actually internalize that mindset?
It's a massive, empowering mindset shift. Taking 100% responsibility means owning everything you experience.
Your actions, your inactions.
And crucially, how you respond to whatever happens to you. It removes the crutch of blaming external factors.
Like blaming traffic for being late.
Right. Or a coworker, or your family for your bad mood or your failures. If you're late, the 100% mindset says it's because you didn't plan properly or you left too late.
It sounds tough, but also liberating.
It really is. Hardy says this mindset revolutionized his own life, made him realize that if something was going to happen, it was entirely up to him to make it happen. It gives you ultimate control and freedom, paradoxically.
Okay, so how do we actually take that control? How do we wake up from the sleepwalking? What's the most powerful practical strategy the material offers?
Hardy's number one strategy here is tracking. He calls it your secret weapon, the scorecard.
Tracking. Like writing things down.
Exactly. You pick an area you want to improve, could be debt, weight, learning a new skill, anything. Then you carry a small notebook or use an app, whatever works, and you record every single relevant action daily, without fail. No judgment, just track.
It sounds incredibly simple, maybe too simple. Does the material show how powerful this minor act can actually be?
Oh, absolutely. He gives his own money trap experience. He was making good money in real estate.
But didn't know where it was going.
Precisely. Realized he owed over $100,000 in taxes and had no clue where his cash flow went. His accountant gave him that exact advice. Track every single cent you spend for 30 days.
And just doing that small act.
Brought an instantaneous awareness to his unconscious spending habits. It didn't just reveal where the money went, it made him conscious and proactive about his finances. It led to entirely new financial disciplines for him.
Wow. That immediately makes me think about the hidden costs of those small things we barely notice, like that daily coffee habit.
Exactly the kind of thing tracking uncovers. Hardy points out that a $4 coffee habit, compounded over 20 years, can cost you over $51,000.
$51,000 from a $4 coffee.
Yeah, because every dollar you spend today is potentially costing you nearly $5 in future wealth, assuming it could have been invested at, say, 8%.
Tracking forces you to ask that question, doesn't it?
It does. Is this $4 coffee really worth $20 out of my future pocket? It turns those unconscious, compounding expenses into very conscious decisions.
This sounds like the engine for making those crucial, small, consistent course corrections we talked about.
That's exactly what it is. When you choose to make even the smallest course corrections, but you do it consistently.
You'll eventually see amazing results.
Right. Even if nobody notices them at first. Think of a horse winning a race by just a nose.
It gets, what, 10 times the prize money?
Exactly. Not because it's 10 times faster, but because of that fractionally better effort, maybe due to some extra laps in training, some extra discipline, it compounds.
Or the golfer example.
Yeah, the #1 golfer is only about 2.7% better on average score than the #10 golfer.
But earns way more.
5 times more in prize money? It's the compounding effect of those little, often unseen extra efforts paying off massively.
Okay, but doing these small steps, maintaining that discipline, it can feel like it requires constant willpower. And honestly, that can be exhausting over time. How do we sustain it?
That's a great point. Willpower alone, Hardy argues, often isn't enough. It's finite. You need why power.
Why power? Meaning your motivation.
Your deep core motivation. He uses that powerful analogy of walking a plank, right? A 10-inch wide plank.
Okay.
On the ground, you'd probably walk across it for $20, no problem.
Sure. Easy money.
But now, put that same plank between two 100-story buildings. Is $20 enough incentive?
Absolutely not. No way.
Okay, but what if your child was on the opposite building and that building was on fire?
You wouldn't even hesitate. You'd be across that plank instantly.
Exactly. The why changes everything. Your choices, your disciplines, they only become truly meaningful and sustainable when they're deeply connected to your desires, your dreams.
Your purpose, your core values, your highest aspirations.
That's the fuel. That's the why power that outlasts willpower.
So connecting to that deep why is really the engine. And that raises an important question from the material. If success is something you attract by the person you become,
a key idea.
Who do you actually need to become to achieve your goals?
That's the critical shift in thinking. It's not just about doing, it's about being. Hardy shares his own story about finding his wife.
Right, he didn't just wish for her?
No. First, he made a detailed list of all the traits and qualities he desired in his ideal partner.
Okay, lots of people do that.
But then he took the crucial next step. He asked himself, okay, who do I need to become to be attractive to a woman of this caliber, this substance?
He flipped it, focused on himself first.
He focused entirely on embodying those qualities himself. And then, he says, as if peeled right from his journal, his wife, Georgia, appeared.
So goals give your brain a focus. It's not magic, but
It's like your brain's reticular activating system. It
Yeah.
starts to see opportunities and possibilities it was previously blind to.
like when you're thinking about buying a specific car.
And suddenly you see that exact model everywhere. Your brain is now primed to notice it. Same principle.
That's a powerful way to frame it. So
Yeah.
our lives are essentially a formula then. Choices plus behavior plus habits plus compound effect goals.
That's the equation. And the key is identifying and adjusting those behaviors, especially the unconscious ones that might be holding you back.
Like the executive example.
Yeah, the executive who realized he was spending, 3.5 hours every day just consuming news, junk input,
That's a huge chunk of time.
massive. By simply shifting that time to productive activities, exercise, reading, planning, he transformed his productivity and significantly reduced his stress.
It's about becoming acutely aware of where you've kind of fallen asleep on the job in your own life.
And allowed those unconscious bad habits to take root and start compounding negatively.
So to do that, you need some practical game changers, especially for getting rid of those bad habits. What does the material suggest?
Okay, several key things. First, identify your triggers. You have to figure out the who, what, where, and when behind your negative behaviors.
What sets them off? What emotions, situations?
Exactly. Awareness is the first step. Second, clean house. And this is meant literally.
Get rid of the temptations.
Remove the enablers. If you want to stop drinking alcohol, get every drop out of your house. No junk food in the cupboards if you're trying to eat healthy. Make the bad choice harder to make.
Okay, makes sense. What else?
Third, swap it. Don't just try to eliminate a bad habit. Replace it with a healthier alternative.
Substitution, not just deprivation.
Right. Hardy talks about replacing a huge triple scoop banana split habit with just 2 Hershey's Kisses, satisfied the sweet tooth, drastically cut the negative impact.
Or his sister-in-law swapping chips for carrots and celery.
Same idea. Find a healthier substitute that still gives you some of the desired sensation or reward.
And when it comes to actually making the change, you can either ease in gradually or just jump in cold turkey.
Yeah, the approach can depend on the habit and your personality. For long-standing things like maybe caffeine, easing in with small steps, weaning off slowly can be effective.
Less of a shock to the system.
But sometimes, Hardy argues, a cold turkey jump in is paradoxically easier in the long run.
Like ripping off a Band-Aid?
Kind of. He mentions Dr. Dean Ornish's heart patients who completely reversed severe heart disease through a radical, immediate diet overhaul. Or an alcoholic friend who just stopped drinking entirely, on the spot.
So the initial discomfort is temporary.
It is. Your body and mind adapt surprisingly quickly. The key is pushing through that initial phase.
He also suggests doing a regular vice check. What's that about?
Yeah, that's interesting. Every few months, Hardy suggests abstaining completely from a chosen vice. Maybe it's coffee, ice cream, wine, social media for 30 days.
Not necessarily to quit forever, but
Exactly. It's not about permanent deprivation. It's about proving to yourself that you're still in control, that the habit isn't the boss of you. It's a reassertion of your personal power over your choices.
I like that. Okay, so once you've started cleaning out the bad habits, making space, you need to deliberately install good habits. What are some effective techniques for that?
Right. Building the positive side. First, set yourself up to succeed. Make it as easy as possible to do the right thing.
Reduce the friction.
Precisely. Stock your fridge with healthy snacks already prepped. Choose a gym that's right on your commute, not miles out of the way. Hardy mentions turning off all email notifications so he could stick to checking it only 3 times a day. Remove the barriers.
Okay, what else?
Second, think addition, not subtraction. This comes from Montel Williams, apparently. Focus on what positive things you can add to your life rather than solely focusing on what you're depriving yourself of.
Frame it positively. Focus on the healthy foods you get to eat, not the junk you're avoiding.
Exactly. Focus on the abundance the good habits bring, not the scarcity of removing the bad ones. It's a mental shift.
That's a really helpful reframe. And then, of course, there's the undeniable power of accountability.
Oh, huge. Several ways to leverage this. One is a public display of accountability.
Yelling people what you're doing.
Announcing your goals to Friends, family, maybe even social media. Hardy tells that story of Zelda, a coworker who quit smoking.
She had the calendar in her cubicle.
Yeah, putting up a big red X for every smoke-free day, and her colleagues cheered her on. That public commitment makes it harder to quit.
What else for accountability?
Find a success buddy. Partner up with someone for mutual accountability. Hardy himself had weekly calls with his friend Landon Taylor.
What do they talk about?
Wins, losses, challenges, fixes for the week. That mutual check-in keeps you both on track.
And competition and camaraderie.
Using friendly contests can really help embed habits, like the Successes Magazine pedometer challenge that got employees walking miles more each day just because it was a competition.
Makes it fun.
And finally, don't forget to celebrate. Reward yourself for making progress along the way.
Doesn't have to be huge, right?
No. A massage after hitting a fitness milestone. Setting aside time for a hobby you love after a week of sticking to a new routine. Acknowledge your wins.
It really sounds like change is hard work. There's no magic pill here.
No, definitely not. But that's precisely why it creates extraordinary results. Hardy makes the point. 99% of failures and successful people actually hate doing the same difficult things.
Oh, interesting. So what's the difference?
Successful people do them anyway. They push through the discomfort. Change is hard, but that difficulty is the barrier to entry that makes standing out possible.
So be patient with yourself.
Absolutely. If you fall off the wagon, don't beat yourself up. Just brush yourself off and get right back on. The brain is remarkably malleable. Those new grooves for good habits will eventually overpower the old ones if you just persist.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something the material calls Big Mo, momentum.
Yes, Big Mo. Hardy describes it as this powerful, almost enigmatic force.
And once you've got it,
There's almost no way anyone can catch you. It makes you virtually unstoppable.
how does one actually harness this? It sounds a bit mystical.
Well, think of a heavy, old-fashioned merry-go-round. Remember those?
Yeah, it took a lot of effort to get it moving.
Immense effort just to get it started from a standstill, but once it's spinning fast...
Just a couple of gentle pushes, keep it going easily.
Exactly. Or think of a rocket ship. Most of the fuel is burned in just the first few minutes, fighting Earth's gravity.
Getting out of the atmosphere.
Right, your old habits, your inertia, that's like gravity. You need a huge burst of energy, consistent discipline to break free. But once that momentum kicks in,
You become unstoppable.
pretty much, successful people tend to get more successful, the rich get richer, the happy get happier, often because they've built and maintained this positive momentum through consistent discipline over time.
So it's not necessarily about being inherently faster or smarter all along.
Not always, no. It's often about that relentless consistency until Mo takes over and starts working for you.
Like the Michael Phelps example.
Perfect example. He built those routines and that consistency over 12 long years of grinding in the pool. That built the foundation for momentum to catch fire at the Olympics.
Or Apple with the iPod.
Right. They weren't the first MP3 player on the market, not by a long shot, but their consistent commitment to quality, design, user experience
Built momentum over time.
until they dominated the market, not just with iPods, but then iPhones, iTunes. It was years of consistent effort before that explosive growth.
Google, YouTube too, the material mentions.
Same story. They caught Big Mo after years of consistent background effort. They were often doing the same fundamental things before and after momentum hit, but that sheer consistency created an unstoppable force.
And a key component, maybe the key component to building that unstoppable momentum is the power of routine.
Absolutely crucial. Establishing daily, weekly, and monthly routines is how you embed those new positive attitudes and behaviors until they become automatic.
Like muscle memory for success.
Kind of, yeah. Think of military boot camp. How does it transform raw recruits into disciplined soldiers so quickly? Through intense, repetitive routines.
Or the Jack Nicklaus example, his pre-shot routine.
Incredibly consistent. Hardy points out Nicklaus's routine never varied by more than a second. Compare that to Greg Norman, whose routine apparently varied quite a bit during his infamous Masters collapse.
Wow, stark contrast. Shows the cost of inconsistency under pressure.
It really does. Routine builds reliability.
Hardy even shares his own specific routines, the bookend routines for his days.
Yeah, his morning routine is designed to set him up for success. Starts with expressing gratitude.
Sending a love to someone.
Identifying his top 3 most valuable priorities, MVPs for the day. Reading something instructional, stretching.
And crucially, focusing on those MVPs before getting sucked into email or distractions.
Right. And his evening routine is about closing out strong, cashing out the day's performance, reflecting, and reading something inspirational before sleep.
So he starts strong and finishes strong, creating a positive feedback loop.
Regardless of what chaos the day might throw at him in between, these routines anchor him.
But can too much routine become, well, a rut? Hardy does advise to shake it up occasionally.
Good point. Yes, to avoid hitting plateaus and maintain passion and enthusiasm, interrupting routines sometimes is important.
Keep things fresh.
Change up your workout, try new healthy foods, take a class on something unrelated. It can recapture enthusiasm, prevent boredom, and often provide fresh perspectives or ideas. Keeps the mind agile.
It sounds like all these consistent routines, when done right, create this powerful rhythm.
Exactly, like a steam locomotive. Takes a lot to get it going, but once it builds up that head of steam and gets into a rhythm,
It's incredibly hard to stop.
that's the power. Once your daily disciplines become routine, they create this rhythm. Hardy applies this to his marriage, too.
The Friday date night, Saturday family day.
Sunday relationship review to talk about wins, losses, adjustments for the week ahead. It creates a predictable, powerful rhythm that fosters momentum and keeps the partnership thriving.
And the flip side is also true, right? The material makes it really clear that the cost of inconsistency is massive.
Huge. Hardy uses that vivid pump well analogy. Remember the old hand pumps for water?
Yeah, you had to pump like crazy to get the water flowing.
Right, you pump really hard for a while, but if you stop before the water starts coming out,
All that effort is lost.
yeah,
The water level drops back down.
exactly. It takes immense, consistent energy to get that water flowing up the pipe. But once it's steady, it's relatively easy to keep it going with consistent pumping.
But stop for even a short time.
And you lose all that accumulated momentum. You have to start pumping like crazy all over again from scratch.
So consistency is the key, like the tortoise winning the race.
It truly is the pace of success. It's about not breaking the chain, maintaining that steady rhythm.
Okay, so we've covered our choices, building habits, harnessing momentum. But the material also highlights these pervasive external influences that are always at play.
Right. Even with the best intentions and habits, these forces are constantly shaping us. Hardy focuses on three big ones: input, associations, and environment.
Let's start with input. Garbage in, garbage out.
This is about what you feed your mind. Your brain, Hardy points out, is fundamentally wired for survival. It's constantly scanning for potential threats, for negativity.
The default setting is caution, maybe even fear.
To some extent, yes. So if you constantly bombard it with negative input like sensationalist news, gossip, constant complaining,
You're essentially filling your mental glass with dirty water.
precisely, fear, worry, cynicism, scarcity thinking. And that dirty water then dictates your perception of the world and your possibilities.
So the clear message is, don't drink dirty water. Actively manage your input.
You absolutely have to. You must consciously, actively flush your mind with positive, inspirational, supportive input.
How does Hardy suggest doing that?
He's pretty militant about it. He maintains a strict junk filter. Basically, no mainstream news consumption, only very targeted RSS feeds for specific information he needs.
And the drive time you concept.
Yeah, turning his car commute into a mobile classroom, listening to instructional CDs or audiobooks instead of talk radio or music. It's about consistently flushing out the negative and deliberately filling his mind with positive, supportive ideas. That gives him a huge mental advantage over time.
Okay, input makes sense. Then there are our associations. Who's influencing you? This one feels like it could be particularly tough for people to confront.
It absolutely can be. It hits close to home. Jim Rohn, Hardy's mentor, famously taught that you eventually become the combined average of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Wow. Their health, their income, their attitudes.
Their relationship quality, their ambitions, it all subtly but powerfully rubs off on you over time, whether you like it or not.
So that raises a really important, maybe uncomfortable question for everyone listening.
What is the average health, income, attitude, or relationship quality of your top 5 closest associates?
Does that thought make you maybe squirm a little? Or does it inspire you?
It's a critical assessment. And if the average isn't pulling you up, it's likely pulling you down, or at least holding you stagnant.
Okay, so if you realize the average isn't great, how does the material suggest we manage these powerful associations? You can't always just cut people out of your life.
No, it's nuanced. Hardy suggests thinking in 3 categories. First, dissociations.
Breaking the way completely.
Yes, identifying actively negative or toxic influences and making the difficult choice to completely break away from them. These are the people who actively drag you down, resent your growth.
That could be really hard, especially with family or long-term friends.
Extremely hard. And often, those people will fight you because your positive changes unintentionally shine a light on their own lack of discipline or negative choices.
Okay, what's the next category?
Limited associations. These are people who aren't necessarily toxic, but maybe they don't align with your goals or values. You don't need to cut them off entirely.
But you manage the time spent.
Exactly. Recognize people you can spend short periods with, but maybe not extended time. Hardy jokes, some people are good for 3 minutes, but not 3 hours. You consciously limit the exposure.
And the third category, this is the proactive one.
Expanded associations. This is about actively seeking out and intentionally spending more time with people who already embody the qualities, success, or attitudes you desire.
Finding mentors, positive role models.
Joining groups, mastermind alliances, finding virtual mentorship through books, courses, audios like Hardy did with Jim Rohn's materials long before he met him. Consciously increasing your exposure to positive influences.
The material also really emphasizes finding a peak performance partner.
Yes, someone you trust implicitly, who can be brutally honest with you, hold you accountable, call you out when needed, like Hardy's calls with Landon Taylor.
And investing in mentorship.
Absolutely. Even top performers, Hardy notes people like Harvey Mackay, John Wood, they all had mentors. Having a personal board of advisors, formal or informal, is invaluable.
Okay, input associations. The third external influence is environment. Changing your view changes your perspective.
This is about your physical surroundings, but also your sort of psychic space. Hardy tells that powerful story about being mesmerized by his dream house on the water in Tiburon.
Seeing it, being near it, fuels his ambition.
Completely. He visualized himself living there, and that vision pulled him forward, made him work harder, stretch further until he eventually acquired it. Being in that aspirational environment expanded his dreams and possibilities.
So our environment, the clutter, the disorganization, or the inspiration directly impacts our growth.
Hugely. The material makes it really clear. You get in life what you tolerate.
Oof, that's blunt.
It is. If you tolerate disrespect, you'll get disrespect. If you tolerate clutter and chaos in your workspace, it likely reflects and hinders your mental clarity. If you tolerate being underpaid or underappreciated,
That's likely what will continue.
So, clearing clutter, physical clutter from your desk, digital clutter from your inbox, even psychic clutter from draining relationships is crucial. Raising your personal standards for what you'll accept in your environment creates a space that supports your success rather than subtly undermining it.
Okay, so we've covered choices, habits, momentum, managing influences. Now let's get into what the material calls the ultimate accelerator. This sounds like where the compound effect really goes into overdrive.
Yeah, this is about pushing beyond the basics. It starts with recognizing and leveraging moments of truth.
Moments of truth, what defines those?
These are those critical junctures, those tough times where you really define yourself. It's when you hit the wall, when you feel pain or difficulty, and you choose to push through it rather than shrinking back.
Like the Lance Armstrong example in the Tour de France climbs.
Exactly. Knowing his competitors were also hurting, he chose that moment to attack, to push harder. That's where he broke them.
Or Muhammad Ali's rope-a-dope against Foreman.
Right. He let Foreman punch himself out, hit his own wall, and then Ali seized the opportunity. Lou Holtz, the football coach, had a similar philosophy. It's not just doing your best, it's the extra effort you give after you think you've given your best that truly wins championships.
So it's about multiplying your results, not just adding to them incrementally. How does that work? How does just a little bit more effort create such exponential outcomes?
It's like leverage. A little bit more effort strategically applied just beyond the expected norm can exponentially increase the outcomes. Think about weight training.
Okay.
Let's say your program calls for 12 reps and you hit failure at 12. Most people stop there.
Right, you did the set.
But if you push through the pain and grind out just 3 to 5 more reps after hitting your max,
That's where the real growth happens.
that's what multiplies the results. Those extra few reps do more for muscle growth than the first 12 combined. It's disproportionate.
Or revisiting the magic penny again.
Yeah, Hardy makes the point. If that penny doubled just one extra time per week, going a little bit further, the end result wouldn't be just a bit more than $10 million.
It jumps massively.
Through $171 million. It's
Yeah.
the astonishing math of compounding that extra little bit of effort.
Okay, so one powerful way to leverage this is to consistently aim to beat the expectations.
Exactly. Go above and beyond what's considered normal or sufficient. Oprah Winfrey is a master of this.
The famous car giveaway is the ultimate example.
Right. Completely unexpected, massively generous, it created legendary buzz. But even smaller, consistent acts of beyond expected generosity built her brand.
Or Hardy's marriage proposal story.
Yeah, he didn't just ask his future father-in-law for his blessing. He learned enough Portuguese to deliver the speech in his language.
Wow.
And he called all 5 of his wife's brothers individually to ask for their blessing too. That extra effort, beating expectations, showed an exponential level of commitment.
Stuart Johnson launching the Success Foundation during a recession.
Funding over 1 million books for teens when others were cutting back. Again, beating expectations, multiplying the impact.
And then there's the related idea. Do the unexpected. Be a contrarian.
Yeah, if everyone else zigs, you zag. Think differently. Richard Branson built his entire Virgin brand on bold, unexpected, often outrageous publicity stunts for product launches. They defied convention.
God, Ted.
Massive attention. Or Hardy's own strategy when he sold real estate. Expired listings usually get tons of calls from agents.
Right, standard practice?
He didn't just call. He hand-delivered pre-made SLD signs to their doorstep with his contact info. Unexpected, memorable, effective.
The material tells that story about Alex who didn't get his dream job.
Right, because he didn't do the unexpected. Everyone else was doing video interviews. The company hinted they valued face-to-face. He didn't take the initiative to fly across the country. Someone else did and got the job.
Or the political example influencing a congressman by connecting with his wife through a shared interest, approaching through an unexpected channel.
It's about adding a dose of audacity, as Hardy puts it, to your repertoire. Thinking outside the standard playbook.
And finally, tied into all this is simply do better than expected. Consistently exceed the standard.
Yes. This is about consistent excellence, not just occasional flashes. Think of the invisible children, guys. They didn't just try to contact Oprah once.
They persisted for 6 days straight outside her studios.
Doing better than anyone expected. That persistence led to a live broadcast reaching 65 million people, transforming their cause overnight.
Nordstrom's legendary customer service comes to mind.
Taking back tires, accepting returns without receipts from years ago, consistently doing better than expected builds extraordinary loyalty and reputation.
Steve Jobs with Apple product launches.
Always had that one more thing. A little, or sometimes a lot, of something extra to WOW you to do better than expected. It created global anticipation and devotion.
So the call to action for you, listening right now, is to look for these multiplier opportunities in your own life.
Across all areas, where can you go just a little bit further, push a little harder, last a little longer, prepare a bit better, deliver more value than is expected?
That's where the exponential growth lies.
That's the accelerator. So just to recap the whole thing, the compound effect, when you combine it with consistent, positive action, good habits, momentum, managing your influences, and then hitting that accelerator.
It's the real deal for lasting success. There really are no more excuses, are there?
Not really. The formula's there.
So if you're listening, and maybe you're not where you thought you'd be 5 years ago, if those bad habits are still lingering, if your income or health isn't where you expected,
It's time to make some new choices. Starting today. Starting small.
don't let the next 5 years just be a repeat, a continuum of the last 5. You have the power to change the trajectory.
Absolutely. And maybe as a final provocative thought to leave you with, something interesting from the material.
Okay.
It suggests that whatever you truly want more of in life, whether it's confidence, hope, success, love, appreciation, the very best way to get it.
Is to focus your energy on giving it to others first.
Interesting paradox, right? So if you found value in this deep dive today, maybe challenge yourself to try that philosophy.
How so?
Perhaps share the key insights you gained here with, say, 5 people you care about, pass on the knowledge.
And that act of giving, of sharing the value,
will in turn be your own first step towards exercising these powerful principles more deeply in your own life. It starts the positive compound effect for you right there.